This aerial view of newly finished five-story blocks is the physical proof that the affordable housing program has moved past policy debates. Construction is concluding, and the first residents are beginning to move in. Navigating this transition requires identifying your specific entry point. The government has categorized units based on income: social housing for citizens like Mama Faith, the affordable tier for David, and market class units for Kate. The 2024 Act moves these units into the realm of enforceable constitutional rights. It establishes a system of legal entitlement where the citizen acts as a claimant rather than a beneficiary of administrative charity. This entitlement is anchored in the Constitution of Kenya. Under Article 43(1)(b), the state is legally mandated to ensure every person has access to adequate housing and reasonable standards of sanitation. Because the 2024 Act and 2025 regulations define the process, they create a specific 5-year path that citizens can use to navigate the program's requirements and systemic hurdles. Year 1 begins with the Boma Yangu portal. The system is designed to verify your KRA PIN and national identity details, automatically onboard you via the e-Citizen platform, and check your tax compliance. Also in Year 1, the financial pipeline becomes active. As this flowchart shows, a 1.5% levy is deducted from your monthly gross salary, which is matched by a 1.5% contribution from your employer, funneling directly into the National Affordable Housing Fund. In Year 2, the objective moves to personal accumulation. To secure an actual unit allocation, you must reach the mandatory 5% deposit threshold of the home's total sale price. For the lowest earners, the 2025 regulations introduce a specific legal mechanism to bridge the wealth gap: deposit assistance. This assistance operates as a low-interest loan or grant to cover that initial 5%. However, it is restricted to the social housing category, those earning below 20,000 shillings a month, allowing citizens like Mama Faith to bypass the initial capital barrier. By Year 3, if you have secured an allocation and entered a tenant purchase scheme, essentially a rent-to-own agreement, you can claim a 15% affordable housing tax relief on your contributions. Reaching this milestone involves utilizing the specific legal tools embedded in the 2024 Act to bridge your financial deficits. Year 4 is the move-in phase. You transition from the abstract tenant purchase agreement to the actual occupation of the finished unit. But as Year 5 shows, the 2024 Act imposes strict legislated strings to prevent immediate property flipping. Under Regulation 18, you are prohibited from selling your affordable housing unit for 8 years after completing your payments. Any transfer of interest before then requires explicit written consent from the Affordable Housing Board. The state enforces this long-term occupation to ensure that public subsidies result in long-term housing rather than immediate private profit. We have to balance the policy blueprint against the macroeconomic reality. This photograph of concrete skeletons towering over an informal settlement shows the massive physical transition, but it also highlights significant execution flaws. A special audit report from Auditor-General Nancy Gathungu recently examined the true project status of the national program. The audit revealed a major systemic failure. Nearly 70% of ongoing housing projects currently lack title deeds. Building on land without documentation exposes a multi-billion shilling program to future legal disputes. This missing paperwork creates the risk of projects stalling indefinitely in the court system. These bottlenecks impact delivery. While the government target is 200 units per constituency, the actual number of units handed over to date is much lower. The legal path to ownership depends entirely on the government's ability to secure the land they are building your future home on. Because Article 43 and the Affordable Housing Act are law, the program outlives any single political administration. Navigating these systemic hurdles requires you to monitor the Boma Yangu dashboard and review your local constituency progress reports for site-specific delays. Citizens can use the Public Audit Act to demand transparency and write to their members of parliament to request audits of stalled sites in their districts. For Mama Faith, David, and Kate, reaching the end of the 5-year path means identifying these legal friction points and pushing for their resolution. Ultimately, the affordable housing program requires 5 years of continuous legal vigilance to reach a successful allocation.